All right. In the technical briefing, the government said that they are allocating $742 million and change. Okay. So these are round figures. There's another disclaimer for you. Round figures. $742 million. This includes all the administrative costs. I understand that it includes the retail program, but that is disputed. So we're not going to include it to make it look better for the government's side of this story. Okay. So just remember, this actually could include the whatever $100 million they've spent so far. It could, but we don't know. So we're going to exclude it. So $742 million on the sheet here. The government said that they were going to be compensating for an average of $1,800 per firearm. And that's what prompted me to say, well, how many firearms are you thinking of buying? And here comes the next number. They said 152,000 in total. And that's where, if you guys remember the story, I'm like, what? There's like 90,000 ARs in Canada. And they said, oh, well, we actually have better numbers for you. There's 126,000. There's your next number. 126,000 restricted firearms. So all the ARs, which there's like 87,000, something like that. I can't remember, but around 90,000. And then all the other long guns that are restricted due to barrel length, overall length, whatever. Okay. By name, what have you. So 126,000, and the government knows where they are. They're restricted, therefore registered. So they know they're getting those, give or take. So I'm like, okay, you have 152,000 that you know that you're buying. You have 126,000 that you know or you're going to get because they're registered. So that leaves 26,000 guns. 26,000 guns that represent every firearm in circulation over the last 100 years, let's say. Okay, whatever. I don't think there's any 100-year-old firearms on the prohibited list, but whatever, right? Yeah, for the last 100 years that were previously non-restricted that are now prohibited. So think about all the 50 cals, all the 22s, like how many models of semi-automatic 22s? Even if you think just the 𝐥𝐞𝐠𝐝 by itself, there's probably 20,000. That's just a guess. But I own 2 of those. I own 2 myself. I'm one guy, right? These things were sold in and I'm using this for a reason, every gun store in the country, including like Cabela's and Bass Pro, like big retailers. And they were cheap. They're plasticky, but they were cool. They were fun. They were affordable. They're cheap to shoot. I know 10 people that own one. 10 people in my immediate circle. How can there not be 20,000 at least? Maybe there's 50,000 of them. I couldn't get a hold of Blue Line to ask them. They were the distributor. They didn't want to talk to me for some reason. But yeah, just the GSG-16s alone would make up 20,000 out of that 26,000 remaining. How can you think that 26,000 is going to cover it? So the next number, so 26,000, not a lot, right? So the next number we want to come up with is how many guns are in circulation in Canada? Well, if you remember from last week, we think that there's probably around 2 million, probably well over 2 million of these previously non-restricted, now prohibited long guns circulating in Canada. Probably well beyond, could be 3 million. I don't know. I would even have a hard time saying 1.5. So we're going to go with 2 because that's a pretty solid number. Now, if everybody who owned these firearms participated in the buyback, everybody ran in there, told the government what they have, and there's 2 million firearms got put into that, well, 2 million plus 126,000 restricteds. But let's say that's included. Let's say it's less than 2 million. The government's going to pay for 1.3% of the guns. And nobody's going to find out until you've already told them what you have. 1.3%, basically ripping everybody off. That's their intent. And they told me about it. Completely overt, completely upfront with these numbers. This is all they're going to pay for. So that promise for over half a decade that they're going to compensate you for their policy choices, and everybody knows this is not even a debate anymore. They do that to scare urban voters. This whole ban, this whole compensation thing, it's all BS to scare urban voters to cling on to power despite what they've done to the country. So they're saying, oh, we're people that keep our promises. We're going to roll out this compensation program. We need to move forward. We keep our promises, except the promise to basically pay anybody. And you know that this is all BS. And I'll tell you why. Because if they were genuine, if this was really about getting these guns out of our communities, then they would pay for them. They'd be like, okay, we know it's a lot of money. Canada, I know this is at a time when we can least afford it. We know that all this is going to go on a deficit and we're going to pay interest on this for 2 generations. But we made a promise. We're getting these guns out of our community. Gun owners, we are compensating you for them. Just tell us what you have and you'll get your money. If they wanted to get the guns, that's what they would just follow through with their promise. But that's not what they're doing, is it? Right? And a lot of people would roll in there to be like, I could use that money. I've been out of work or whatever. And they would get a bunch of these guns. But you know what that would cost? It would cost $3.6 billion. $3.6 billion just in the guns themselves. Forget about the admin cost. The admin cost probably be about 1.5, if I had to guess, for that volume. There you go, $5 billion. But that wouldn't look so good. But they don't care about the guns. They just care about the politics. And that's why they're doing that. They're hoping that I come out and tell you all this, and then everybody just says, not me. I'm going to hang on to this gun or these guns, and they're not getting my stuff. And the government goes, oh, thank God. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine two things? If we had to spend that entire budget and have that around our necks like a financial albatross, or we got a lot more guns put in the portal and we had to tell people to screw themselves and then we're not paying for nothing. And their only choice is to hand it in for free, to export it to God knows where. I don't even know where am I going to export guns? Like to who? Right? Or to pay $400 to $700 each firearm to have them deactivated and then give them the certification that they were deactivated out of my own pocket. Not only did I lose my 10, 20, 30 grand worth of firearms, I got to pay to have them all disabled. Why? Because the liberals want to play politics with my life and all of yours, right? I don't know. I think it's pretty cut and dried, and I think I've covered it all. If they cared about public safety, they would pay for them like they promised. Apparently, they're people that keep their promises. Anyway, really important that you know those numbers. That's where they come from. Hopefully, I got that right. I know it took a while, but it's really important. The last thing that I want to mention, the government wants to have this thing come in on budget. They want all of you just to screw off and to hold on to those guns. That's what it seems like to me. This is what it feels like. Or they would just pay for them, right? It's really that easy. It's that part of it is not complicated at all. If you want these guns, just pay for them like you promised. If you don't, tell people that you're going to rip them off by telling the gun lobby directly with the actual numbers in a meeting that was recorded with a slide deck, right? A PowerPoint. Tell them so that they tell gun owners and it gets around and nobody participates. But then what happens? Is there still, what is that? 1,980,000, right? Of these newly prohibited firearms in homes across the country, all over the place. And they're going to leave them there and they're just going to let them sit. And if you end up to be somebody like me that goes, this is wrong and I'm going to talk about it, and God forbid, like me, some people start listening to what you have to say, then all they need to do is go to every gun store within 50 kilometers of your home or where you've lived over the past 10 years and ask them for the ledgers. Because if you remember, now there's a backdoor gun registry, right? Retailers have to keep make, model, serial number, PAL, address, phone number, and the city you were born in order to transfer a firearm to you. And then the government comes to you and says, hey, where's this, Black Creek Labs coyote that's now prohib? You bought it at this gun store. And you say, oh, I sold it before, I sold it. They're like, where's the reference number that you did a transfer, right? Because you can't transfer a non-restricted firearm without getting a reference number. And you'd be like, maybe I didn't do it. Criminal offense. Not only have you committed a criminal offense by not getting the reference number, the license check, as it were, but now they suspect you of continuing to hold on to this firearm. And guess what? That's all they need to get a warrant for your home. And that is a gun call for someone who unlawfully, unauthorized possession of something that is in the eyes of the law, a machine gun. So that's not a general duty member call. That is ERT. So here comes the Bearcat and here comes the breacher. And it's funny, I got lit up by the spin doctors for protection from guns, if you remember, by saying this exact thing. And then the media did a smear campaign on me personally for even bringing it up, that this could be a dangerous situation for gun owners and that it could be more than just a handful of people. It could be a lot. If you only look at a small percentage of people that are unwilling to comply, if the variable to that is, who does the government decide they want to target now, right? Are you causing problems? Are you, funding opposition during elections? Maybe we need to see if you still have one of these guns. And that will hang over the heads of Canadians forever, for a generation, until all of us have either died off of old age or just gone. Like, that's how this works. So for me, I have no choice but to comply. If I don't get paid, I don't get paid. I'm just out the thousands and thousands of dollars. or pay out of my pocket a couple of $1,000s to deactivate all my firearms because they're going to make an example of me, right? Like you're probably in a better position than I am. But for me, no, absolutely they would boot my door in, right? So I went from instructor for the RCMP firearms program, getting a criminal record check every day, teaching people how to comply with the law, and that's their duty as a licensed gun owner, to maybe even getting shot in a high-risk dynamic search warrant looking for prohibited firearms. Have I changed during this whole thing? Oh, no, I haven't. But for some reason, the media took part, and it was like Carly Weeks of the Globe and Mail at the time. It was that clown, the health reporter, Andre, what's his face? Yeah, what a nut that guy was. I was on the front page of the Globe and Mail for saying something so outrageous. And of course, all the docs, they loved that. They all like, oh my God, look at what this guy said. What an extremist. And they dragged me right through the mud for saying that exact thing that I just said just now with exactly the same justification. But that's reality. So I've said enough about this, but we are the gun lobby in Canada, and this is why we're concerned. And this is why we're going to continue to fight on every different level, because this is what's going on, man. This is the level of what's happening. So as I said, I was wondering, like, what is my role after the election? And it's like, oh man, there's a lot of representation that needs to be had for gun owners. There's a lot of information that needs to be circulated. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with police forces and friendly governments and elections, if there is one. Like, there's a lot of work to do. And we are desperately trying to do as much of it as we possibly can, because this is the level of stuff, right? I almost said another word, but this is the level of garbage that's happening right now, and it has to be opposed. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, if you want to do something about it, we have the press release or the media advisory that we put on the website with all of this math in it, right? Or you can just take down a few notes of what I've talked about, these numbers, where they came from, what that means to individual gun owners. Just take some notes and make an appointment to see your Liberal MP and go, what do you want? Do you want people having their doors kicked in? Like, this is not a stretch. This is not an exaggeration. I'm giving you the step-by-step how this happens. Do you want people getting ripped off? Do you want the government putting their thumb on people and crushing them by taking their property or making them liable to have it all deactivated for free, and they lose all their stuff, and then the government just laughs and says, yeah, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And staring them in the face. That's how I look at it, right? Because anything that goes wrong actually helps the government. They're like, see, these people are violent. Just put me in that role. I went from this guy over here to this guy over here. Did I change? No. Everybody else changed. And they pulled a lot of what should be illegal, immoral, evil stuff in the interim. Talk to your Liberal MP. Make an appointment to see them. Don't tear their ear off, like I'm tearing yours off right now, right? Don't tear their ear off, but go, this is my concern. Get in and out of there in 15 minutes so they remember what you said, rather than have their eyes glaze over. Write letters. Talk about it with other gun owners. Like, this stuff is really, really important. Take a little bit of action. Don't just be mad about it. Go see your MP. Even the Conservatives, maybe even put a little bit of pressure on them. You guys need to talk about what the details of what the government is doing here, because it's evil. It transcends its property rights. It's just the behavior of government. It transcends the gun issue. But if you can subscribe, that would be awesome. I'd really like to see us get to 100,000 subscribers, which would be good. Okay. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and we will see you soon.